So when you hear the Book of Numbers, what comes to mind? Probably a long, kind of boring census, right? But what if I told you it's actually one of the most action-packed, dramatic stories in the entire Bible? Seriously, it's the story of a road trip that should have taken like a couple of weeks, but instead, it went terribly, tragically wrong. And look, this isn't just some dusty old story. The Bible is super clear about why it's in there. It says, hey, pay attention. These things were written down as warnings for us. For us. So what could a 3,000-year-old journey possibly teach us today? You'd be surprised. The lessons are, wow, they're more relevant than you might think. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off at the foot of Mount Sinai. The people of Israel have just received the law, and they are literally on the verge of getting this incredible land that God had promised them. I mean, everything is perfectly lined up for a quick, successful trip to their brand new home. And that's the central tension of this whole book. This is the big question. How does a journey of a few weeks turn into 40 years wandering in the desert? It's not really a book about counting people. It's a book about counting the cost of what happens when you don't trust. You know, at the very beginning, there's this amazing sense of divine order. God organizes the entire nation, bringing structure out of chaos. Every single tribe has a specific place to be, a specific job to do. And right there, in the very heart of it all, is the tabernacle, the visible sign of God's presence with them. They were, for all intents and purposes, perfectly set up to succeed. But almost as soon as they hit the road, that perfect plan starts to run into a very human problem. Even though God is clearly guiding them and providing for them, the people's attitude, their whole perspective, just starts to go south, fast. I mean, you can see the conflict playing out right here. It's just night and day. On one side, you've got God's insane provision. I'm talking a pillar of cloud and fire, like a divine GPS system. Food, actual food, falling from the sky. And what's the response on the other side? Just constant complaining. Grumbling about the journey, whining about the food, even challenging the leaders God himself put in place. It's like they had physically left Egypt, but their hearts? Man, their hearts were still chained to the past. So all of this growing grumbling and discontent brings them right to the edge of the promised land. And they arrive at this one single pivotal moment, a moment where one decision is about to change everything for an entire generation. So here's the setup. Moses sends 12 spies, one leader from each of the 12 tribes, to go check out the land. They're gone for 40 days, and when they get back, they all agree on one thing. The land is incredible. It's amazing. But they are completely divided on what to do next. And so they deliver two totally different reports. And the verdict is just staggering. 10 of the spies, that's a huge majority, right? They come back with a report that is dripping with fear. All they can talk about are giants and huge fortified cities. Only 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, come back with a report of faith. They say, hey, God is with us. We can totally do this. But that small voice of faith was just completely drowned out by the overwhelming shouts of fear. And this right here, this is the quote that just breaks your heart, and it reveals everything. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. You see that? It wasn't really about how big the giants were. It was all about how small they saw themselves. After all those years in slavery, they still had the mindset of a slave, not a free people, not a nation of conquerors. Their own self-perception, that's what made them turn their back on the promise. And that one decision, that choice to listen to fear instead of faith, had absolutely devastating and immediate consequences. The door to the promised land slammed shut. And now came the lessons that would have to be learned the hard way, out there in the wilderness. The verdict came down from God. For their 40 days of faithless spying, they would get 40 years of wandering, a year for every day. An entire generation, every single person 20 years and older who had rebelled, was told they would never set foot in the promised land. Their unbelief literally delayed their destiny. And those 40 years weren't just a quiet waiting period. Oh no. They were filled with this repeating cycle of rebellion, judgment, and then mercy. You've got Korah's rebellion, a direct power grab against Moses that ends in disaster. Even Moses himself, their great leader, has a moment of disobedience and is told he can't enter the land. And yet, even after all that, when the people complain again and are bitten by venomous snakes, God provides a way out, the bronze serpent, a powerful picture of how salvation comes from looking to him. But the story doesn't end in complete failure. After those 40 years are up, that whole generation of unbelief has passed away. And now, A new generation, one that's been tested in the wilderness, stands at the exact same spot their parents did, finally ready to finish the journey. So, after all that, what are the big takeaways from this epic story? Well, first, God is faithful. His promise never, ever failed, even when his people did. Second, unbelief has real, tangible consequences. It can totally sidetrack our destiny. Third, the path to God's blessing is paved with obedience, not complaining. And finally, and this is maybe the most important one, our faith is what ultimately determines how far we're going to go. In the end, the book of Numbers just leaves us with this really challenging question, one we have to ask ourselves. It forces us to look in the mirror and say, okay, based on my choices, my attitude, and how much I really trust the promises I say I believe in, am I just wandering around in circles in a wilderness of my own making, or am I walking forward step by step in faith?
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.